Hello and welcome to the Haskincast podcast's newest episode. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and I am excited to bring you another fantastic guest this week. What's going on? Let's see. I am very excited that I will be headed back to the NAMM show in Anaheim in about a week and a half. I didn't think I was going to get the opportunity to go this year, but as it turns out, I did. And I'm very happy about that. Thank you to Cloud Mics, who is bringing me back this year, and hopefully get them on the podcast soon as well. They're pretty busy, but we'll see what we can do. The NAMM show is a pretty amazing thing. It's the annual trade show for musical instruments. A lot of the new stuff that'll be coming out is previewed there before anywhere else in the world, so you get to see things pretty early on. And it's part that, it's part... here's things that we have out that you may not know about that we brought to show you. A lot of demonstrations. I got to see a scene from a movie that Danny Elfman had scored, and they brought the actual template from the scoring session, and you could see how he constructs his music and what his computer setup looks like. That was pretty interesting. So there's a lot of stuff like that, a lot of demos. Some celebrities will be there, and also it's part family reunion. You know, there's people that I have as friends in this business that we communicate through email most of the time. And the NAMM show is an opportunity to actually see them in person. It's the one time of year that the majority of us are in one place. So it's pretty cool to get to see my friends and people that I work with. I get to see people that build the things that I use as tools in my everyday life. Every year I get to visit my friends at Isotope, which is one of my absolute favorite companies. They make some amazing audio restoration tools. They make audio mastering tools, which I use. And now they've really branched out into doing some effects, which I absolutely love. These new effects that they've come out with. I used vocal synth on the last Haunted Holidays album and did some various bits with that. But they also encourage thinking outside of that box. It's not just for voice. Use it on other things. Take a drum and do something with that, or a bass guitar and do something with that. I remember reading early on when I bought my first sequencer in the Korg manual, it said that same thing. It says, don't think of a bass guitar as a bass guitar. Think of it as a sound. And if you're writing structured music, if you're writing rock music, for example, you have the bass where the bass goes, you have the guitar where the guitar goes, and drums and keyboard and all that. But when you're writing anything else, anything that doesn't have to have a structure, if you're writing new age music or you're writing film score music or just something for background for a commercial or whatever, you really can transform those sounds into something that is beyond what is on the surface. And I love doing that. I'm really glad that was something that was in that manual early on, because that's always stuck with me. So when I get a toy, which to me, I mean, as a musician, this is it's a serious toy, but it's still a toy. I look at what can I do with it beyond just transforming voice, which was the original design. And I've had a lot of fun with that. I'm going to be doing a review of that here very soon. Just haven't been able to make the time, but I'll be doing a review for that. I'll also be doing a review for Isotope's Neutron 2, which is another just amazing studio tool. Those guys at Isotope, they're, to me at least, about as cutting edge as it gets, and they provide some of the most important tools that I use every single day. So I'm always excited to visit my friends there. They've been very generous and very friendly and kind and supportive, and I could not ask for anything better out of a company. They represent all the values that I hold very dearly myself, and it makes them even more enjoyable to work with. There's some companies that I have products from that when I got the products, I was very excited to use them. But as I've seen what the company's done, where they've headed, the way they treat their customers, it really doesn't inspire me to use their tools anymore or to purchase anything more for them. In fact, there's two companies that I will probably never purchase anything from again. There's one that I'm kind of borderline with, but that's just me. And I have to feel good about the companies that design the tools I use, because if I don't, it just doesn't make me want to use them. So That's just me. I might be in the complete minority on that. I have no idea. But in any event, I'm very excited to head back to NAMM. I've got a few vendors that I want to see. My friends at M Audio. I'm hoping that Behringer is going to be there. They're not on the list, but they're doing a pre-NAMM party, so it seems kind of weird that they wouldn't be there. Or maybe that's why they're not. I don't know. I've sent a message into them to find out. But M Audio is a company that I work with quite a bit. I work with Behringer's gear quite a bit as well. BandLab is going to be there, which I'm excited to meet them now that they've taken over control of Cakewalk. They purchased it away from Gibson, and that is the main digital audio workstation that I use. I use Digital Performer a little bit and Cubase a little bit. But mostly I do the majority of my work in Cakewalk, and I have for 20-some years now, probably longer than that. I can't remember when I started, what year it was, but I know I just started at Pro Sound Music, so it was probably sometime in the late 90s, mid-90s, I want to say. I'll have to look. But in any case, NAMM is an awesome thing. I'm very happy to go. I'm considering doing a separate podcast on NAMM, just depending. I'm there for a very short time this year, just a day and a half, whereas I usually go 3 to 4 days of the 4-day event. So it's going to be a quick in and out. But if you want to kind of get a general idea of what it looks like, pop on over to my Facebook page, and there are three photo albums from different years that I've been at NAMM. This is my 4th year going. The day before NAMM, though, is equally as exciting to me because that is the one day of the year that I take off. I don't work, or I should say I work minimally because I go to the beach that day, and I just spend the day walking up and down the beach, relaxing, trying not to work, trying not to think, just letting all that out and just enjoying the air and the waves and the sounds. And the pelican that seems to have no personal bubble, you can just walk right up to him and he doesn't even flinch. There's a seal that swims off the end of the pier where the guys fish. And I've seen dolphins. I've seen whales. It's a pretty cool thing, and it's not often that I'm willing to trade an entire day for not working, but that's the one day of the year I absolutely love. And then at the end of the day, I go to the end of the pier, and there's a little restaurant there, and I'll just get a hot chocolate, and I'll watch the sun go down. But it's a really weird experience there, and there's only one place I've done this, so I don't know if it's exactly like this anywhere else. But the sun goes down, but then there's like a darkness that comes and envelopes the entire area. And it just feels like you're staring into space without stars. It just seems like an endless sea of darkness. It's the weirdest thing, but I think it's so cool. So I have to go and check that out every time I'm there. And I will do that this time, and I'll enjoy that. But typically, of course, I have to do some work, so I will get some audio samples. I'll do some filming of the ocean and the waves and different spots, and because you never know what you might need, especially with the relaxation stuff I do. I like to have the videos water-based because that seems to be something that the majority of people can find relaxation in. So I try to get a lot of footage from that, and then I look at it and I'm like, oh, this is really good, but I just did a water video and I want to do something else. But I don't go hiking. I don't go through the woods. I don't really go outside a lot. So water seems to be the one thing that I can find and film, and hopefully everyone enjoys it as much as I do. But let's talk about our guest. Our guest today, I've known for, I met her, I think, the year before I graduated high school. So that would be 89, so a long time. And she is a phenomenal guitarist. She graduated from Berkeley, I think, last year. And she's played in a couple bands out in the East. And it's really great to see somebody being successful in this business purely on their talent, their passion, their dedication. It wasn't that she knew somebody. It wasn't that she really went out of her way to network exactly. She was just in a good place to meet people. And she really went through a lot to get where she is now. And we're going to talk about that on the show. And I really admire how hard she's worked. I admire that she found that belief in herself to keep at it, to push herself to the level that she's at now. And on top of that, I mean, she's just a dear friend. She's absolutely wonderful. And I'm happy to bring her on the show. So let's get Juli on. Okay, everybody, let's welcome Juli onto the show. Juli, how are you doing today?
I'm really well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. I just realized something. I do the welcome on every show very consistently. Like, I do it with all this, like, sort of rock voice energy. And I got that from working at ProSound in Colorado Springs when I used to do the voice messages, and I used to go, "Thank you for calling ProSound." And I think that was the last time I saw your mom was at ProSound in Colorado Springs.
You know what? I think that's true.
Yeah, it's been quite some time.
I remember those voicemail messages.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing them.
Yeah, those were fun. And then, of course, I would not be able to talk the next day because I would do a bunch of different takes and just scratch the hell out of my voice. But that was years ago. How are you doing these days?
Well, I've been very busy and very blessed, fortunate to be able to be doing everything I love.
Yeah, that is pretty fantastic. You've recently, I guess it's been a few years now that you moved back to the East Coast, and you seem to be playing all the time.
I know. I don't know how it happened. I joined a band a year ago called Fast Times, and they had an ad on Craigslist. And they said, you'll probably be doing over 100 gigs a year. And I thought, yeah, right. That's just because I'm really trying to get someone in. But I played over 100 gigs with them. And then I also play in a band called The Experts. And we did 15 gigs this last year. So that was a lot of playing.
Yeah.
I also played, I did this Imagine Arts. A few shows for that. We were playing at the kindergartens around town.
Oh, cool.
That was really fun, kids too. And so I've not actually counted up exactly how many gigs I played last year, but it was amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot. Like when I see your postings, it just seems like you don't really get a lot of nights off. And I love that because these days there are not a lot of people outside of, maybe like an entertainment town like Atlantic City or New Orleans or Vegas or Nashville that really get to play a lot because there are not a lot of venues that are hiring live bands these days.
Well, we've come into that. Lately, a lot of the clubs are switching from live music on Fridays to a DJ or just no music at all, which is unfortunate. But I do a lot of traveling, so I play in New Hampshire, in Maine, in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, pretty much where we can get booked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's good. I mean, it just seems to me that because there's not as much opportunity as there used to be, musicians don't really get to build their skills because you can practice in the bedroom, you can practice in the basement or with your band, but you really get the real experience on stage. And so do you find that because of the amount of work that you've been doing, do you feel that your playing has grown from that?
Yes. Well, there's performance and then there's playing. So I have noticed that as far as detailed practice goes, I've been kind of slacking on that. Practicing my arpeggios, learning new scales, learning new chords. And so when I was a student at Berkeley, that was pretty much everything I focused on. And I've noticed that while getting really killer riffs and stage presence and getting the songs really tight with the band, that's gotten a lot better. But now I feel like, oh, wait, how did that third inversion, major 7 sharp 5? I don't know. Remember it,
Well, but Berkeley is such an intensive study. I would imagine that once you were done, you just, for at least a short time or a while, would have gone, okay, I don't need to stress so much on that right now. I've just been pushing myself to ridiculous limits to graduate. I need a breather.
I needed an exhale.
Yeah. How long was your program in Berkeley?
Well, it was a bachelor's degree, but I was fortunate enough to have a semester of credits transfer over.
Oh, okay.
So I did 7 semesters in 2 years. I just went straight through the summer.
Wow.
I went semester straight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was really intense, but honestly, I needed to do it because, well, as a single mom, I was on welfare. I was receiving health insurance by the state.
Mm-hmm.
On welfare, you're only allowed 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I was living on my student loans and welfare, thankfully.
Wow.
But it was out. So the time, I just really needed to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
It was just in time to finish.
Yeah, I love that you saw an opportunity and made it work. And I'm sure that that was not easy, because no matter who you are or where you've been in life, there is that internal emotional difficulty of being at a point where you're on welfare, because you're educated, you're talented, and you're a hardworking person, and you want to be able to provide. But there are times where, and I've been there too, where things are really tough. You can't find work, royalties are not coming in the way that you had hoped, and especially I can't even imagine doing that as a mom. I can't imagine going to Berkeley and being a parent, especially on a fast track like that. And how did you?
The only one that I knew of that was there with it. So I didn't really have anyone to rely on, but it was most definitely one of the hardest things I've done.
Would you say it was just digging in day after day, or was it maybe a time management, or what would you say that your success of getting through that was?
I was at a point in my life where I was either just going to settle for what I had, which wasn't enough to get by, mm-hmm. or I was just going to take a leap of faith. So I took this leap of faith, not even really, I didn't even think I'd get accepted, honestly. So when the day came, I thought, well, this is it. I'm walking out and there's no turning back. Mm-hmm. So I think it was less time management. It was less the schooling that was difficult. It was more trying to find a place to live, braving the financial that I had. We ran out of heating oil for a couple weeks in the dead of winter, and there were a couple days where the kids couldn't go to school because it was negative 25 with the wind chill.
Wow.
And we had this crazy winter. It was 2015, and we got 100 inches of snow, I think, in 1 month.
Good God.
Basically, every Sunday, there was a new blizzard. And so I never realized when I signed the lease, I lived in Colorado, but not as an adult. And then I moved to Washington, which has very moderate temperatures. We did have a few snows, but when I signed the lease, it said that I needed to shovel. So, oh yeah, whatever.
Right.
I didn't realize what that meant. Like feet and feet of snow. I had to shovel off the driveway.
And that's not like a light powdery snow. That's the heavy wet snow that you could have a good snowball fight with, that 5 minutes after shoveling, you just want to lay down and not get up until tomorrow.
Heavy and icy. And then the transportation. I had a car, but if you try to park in the city, you'll go broke.
Oh.
So I took the T, which is our train system around here. So I would get the girls to school. Sometimes I could walk to the T station. It was a mile away, but most of the time I'd take the bus. Mm-hmm. And getting the bus is crazy. You can't even sit down. There's so many people on the bus. Mm-hmm. You're hanging on for dear life. Then you get to the train, which is packed. But then during this crazy winter, there was delays and broken down trains, and then trains that couldn't go through their full routes because the tracks were covered in ice.
Oh,
so
wow.
A news station. And so trying to route my schedule and trying to get the kids picked up from school and trying to do my homework. I mean, it was insane. I think about it now.
Right.
I did it, but I just wanted it so desperately.
Well, and when you look back on something, you look at the whole of it, whereas when you're living it, you're living in the moment of it. So when you look back at, you're looking back at the entire mountain instead of just the step that you were climbing at any given time. But that really, I mean, that's a testament to your dedication to not just your craft, but also just wanting a better life for yourself, for your kids. I mean, that I really respect anybody that is willing to put themselves through that kind of insanity to better their lives. And kudos to you for doing that.
Well, it has paid off. And like you were talking about before, it's very difficult to make it in this business. And I think the reason I never pursued a degree is my family, people I knew, they always would say, well, you have to have a backup plan.
Right.
So every job that I had was just a backup plan. There was retail, restaurants. I got my manicuring license. But I think it was just the fear of putting 100% into the music and maybe having it fail.
Right.
So when I took this step, I just knew that I'm going to do everything within my power to not have it fail. Mm-hmm. I just want to tell all those people wrong that you absolutely can make a life in music.
And you're doing it. And I definitely applaud that, because it is true that the people, and I understand where it comes from. I understand it comes from love and concern and people wanting us to be happy and healthy. But at the same point, if you program people's minds with, you're probably going to fail, that plays over in the back of their head. And that's an even bigger mountain to overcome than having the support and saying, well, it's always good to have more skills, but give this everything you have if this is what you want to do. Just be smart about how you do it.
And you will find a way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not an easy business by any means.
No.
I don't know about you because you're in the bands, but I tend to spend far more time networking and looking for projects to connect with when I'm not doing my own than I do actually working on projects.
Yeah, it is. It's an all-inclusive business.
Mm-hmm.
You go up, you have to be your own manager. Sometimes you have to be you have to make flyers. I mean, you just have to have multiple skills.
How much did Berkeley prepare you for the business side of music as much as it prepared you as a musician?
Well, honestly, I didn't. I already knew about the business.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a musician for 30 years now, and as far as working with agents, as far as money management, time management, getting gigs, practicing, those are the things I already knew. Mm-hmm. The reason I got a degree was to pursue education, and because I knew the opportunity. I'd eventually love to work at a college. Mm-hmm. So I imagine I'll have to get my master's soon, but it was less about making connections as it was just getting a degree.
Gotcha.
I wanted a degree so I could teach and move forward in that way. Mm-hmm. Because I played in bands. I know how to be in a band. I know how to perform. I know how to make my own videos. I know how to network. And a lot of people do go to Berkeley to network in that way. Mm-hmm. But I wanted for the education, obviously, in music. I learned a tremendous amount. I'm just blown away by my experience there.
That's awesome.
That piece of paper that says I am a scholar.
Well, I'm glad that all that effort and taking the bus and getting through the snow without a car and all that was worth it, because that must have been a very difficult couple of years. And I'm glad to see now where you're at. And I love the idea of people that understand all the facets of it, the performance side, the business side, the practicing side, the building your skills part. I'd like to see those people get into education like yourself, because that's the kind of people, if I was a student, that's who I would want to learn from. Yeah.
Well, that's who I did get to learn from there. All my professors are accomplished, amazing musicians mm-hmm. themselves. And then they have this deep knowledge of theory and application, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah, I love that. I have a couple of friends that have gone there, and they've had nothing but great things to say, except every once in a while they'll say something like, oh my God, the amount of work is so much more than I thought it was going to be.
Well, that's true. It is. And I know it's almost like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah.
You can only accept so much at a time. Mm-hmm. Well, I still have all my books and all my notes, and I pull them out and review everything I learned just to move forward. I have enough material to study the rest of my life.
Sure.
I just wanted to tell you about a class that I took. It was called Guitarist.
Ooh.
It was basically how to reharmonize all these chords and all the different possibilities that you have on the guitar.
Mm-hmm.
But every class that I went, I felt like they were talking in a different language.
Really?
It was over my head in so many ways. And then, what's crazy is I ended up with an A, but I really don't know how. Because when I look at the book, I think, what does this mean on some of the levels? So, it was just the tip of the iceberg, the possibility.
I hope that wasn't your first class, because that would have been a pretty intimidating way to start off.
No. There was so many magical epiphanies that I had.
Is that something that you can look at those notes now and make a little bit more sense of them, or is that still something? Oh, you can. Okay, good.
Yeah. I think I took it in my third or fourth semester, but as you move forward in your new levels of theory and harmony and things like that, ear training, those types of things come a lot clearer.
Now, are those advanced techniques, are those the kind of things that you're more likely to use in a live situation, or would that be something when you're in the studio and you can really sit down and record some interesting things that you might not be able to do live because you only have one guitar track when you're live? Is that more of a studio application?
Well, the things I've learned will help my songwriting and my ears. Mm-hmm. They've just opened my ears up to new sound.
Right.
It was less technical, although I really got some nice fingerings for scales and things like that. It was less about learning the licks and more understanding the theory, like transcription music, like now, and analyzing music, which I really didn't understand. I mean, I could take, hey, that's 1-4-5 and the 6 in there somewhere, but now, when you see how secondary dominance and resolutions and all these amazing, wonderful things that we take for granted, like Stevie Wonder. I mean, I've never analyzed his music before, but if you can really sit down and look at the chord voicings and the way he moves from piece to piece and key changes, and it's just amazing.
The first year that I went to the NAMM show, I happened to be down in the first floor, which is where all the sort of smaller companies and the newbies get their introduction into being exhibitors. And all of a sudden there was this big commotion, and I turn around and there's Stevie Wonder. And you don't really get a sense of how big he is, and I mean this on a physical and more of a popularity level, because everybody just cleared a path for him. They didn't need to be told to move out of the way. They saw who it was and they just moved. And he just has this incredible presence about him that's very powerful. But he's also a really big guy. I had no idea he's like a little refrigerator. And his bodyguard was like a full-size refrigerator, because he stood between me and Stevie Wonder. He wasn't blocking me. He just happened to be on that side. And that guy was probably twice as big, almost not even human looking. But it was an incredible experience just to have him walk by, because you just felt so much tremendous presence wafting off of him. It almost knocks you back a step. Yeah. And musically, he's exactly the same way. When you really sit down and see what he actually does, it's very intelligent.
Yes. But it doesn't sound it. Like, it just comes as beautiful music.
Right.
There's so much packed into it. Mm-hmm. And very inspirational that you can use it for your own music. That's what I'm totally enjoying, too.
Mm-hmm. I think though that you can do some of those kind of things, and if you do them subtly, people won't notice. They won't notice it's a very intellectual transition. The casual listener will just feel a transition.
Yeah.
But for those that really dig in and go, wow, that's how he pulled that off, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's genius.
Mm-hmm. Have you gotten to listen to any of the isolated tracks that have started to surface around YouTube?
Not his, but we study those in my band, Fast Times, to make sure we get all the... I love that concept.
I do too. I heard, I think it was Africa by Toto was one of the first ones I heard. And I never realized how many layers there really are in that song, vocally and musically alike.
Have you ever heard the one for Aha? The Take On Me song by Aha?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Well, there's an acoustic guitar part in there.
There is?
I never knew. And so we found it. The guy who's playing it is extremely aggressive, and sometimes he plays so hard on the chord that it goes out of tune.
Oh, really?
But I never would have known that was there.
I had no idea.
Just beautiful ethereal pads, background, because we already know, you know. But then there's all this other stuff happening.
I love that these are surfacing because it gives even the casual listener an opportunity to understand how much work really goes into a song.
Yeah.
You know, and you look at bands like Dream Theater or Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and you think about how much they put into their music from the technical standpoint, but it's typically noticeable with bands like that. Whereas, you know, with Toto or Aha, you know that there's these nice songs coming out, but until you really start peeling back the layers of the onion, you have no idea how much there really is.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to give props to the people for what they really do instead of just what you hear on the surface.
No, it's crazy. And if you think about in those days how they were recording everything to tape, couldn't really say, oh, let's keep 6 tracks and then just comp them together.
Right.
Really had to record, okay, that one wasn't so good, so let's do it again and hope we get it better.
Yeah, it was back in a time when musicians really needed to know how to play. They needed to be able to get through a take without mistakes because you really couldn't punch in very many places because you would have the overtone of the previous note or you have a cymbal decaying and you just couldn't do that. Nowadays it's a whole different world. You could punch in, you know, every other measure for an entire album if you wanted to. You've done recording. When you did your album, now I think you said it was 2003?
Which one?
When you did My Universe?
Oh, My Universe was, let me try and remember, 2011.
Okay. So when you recorded that, were you using a digital audio workstation or were you on an analog?
I was using Logic.
Oh, you were? Okay.
And my what do they call it? My ISO booth was my closet.
That works. I've recorded vocals in a shower to get that sort of really tinny reverb. I've recorded singing into a toilet bowl to get that reverb. It's amazing the little changes that you can get by your recording location. I'm really glad that I was brought up in the old school, working on analog on 2-inch tape and on, you know, a mixing board before flying faders. Have you recorded? Has all your recordings been in the digital world, or were you recording before that?
I was recording before that, and I recorded my album with my band Destiny in 1994. Mm-hmm. And we went to a 24-track studio, re-recorded on Ampex 2-inch tape. Mm-hmm. Just like that, 16 minutes each tape. Right. $300 or $175. I can't remember what it cost back then.
Yeah, it's a whole different world now that you can record at home on your own time without the pressure of the clock ticking.
Oh my gosh, it's like, oh, we only got 10 hours left.
Yeah, because you'd have to, you know, you want to get the best performances, but you have to save time for the mixing and the mastering and all that because that's all charged hourly. That was in Seattle that you recorded that?
It was in a place called Lakewood, Washington.
Okay. Now you were playing in Seattle back when the Seattle scene was pretty big. Were you doing a lot of live stuff back then, or were you more isolated to songwriting at the time?
No, we were playing lots of live stuff, and what's fun is that was the grunge scene. Mm-hmm. And we were an progressive instrumental metal band. 3 people. So we were definitely going against the grain, but we had a great following and playing with those bands, it was just a cool contrast. They wouldn't just put us with other instrumental bands because there weren't any.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It was so fun. It was a wonderful time to be coming up in that scene.
Yeah, that was definitely one of those times, like the early '80s when we had the synthesizer and pop and the new wave invasion was happening. That was a very specific time, and then moving into the '90s, the grunge scene then became the thing. I never really got into it. I liked a song here and there, but I don't know why I didn't connect with it. I think I didn't find a lot of emotional excitement in it.
Yeah.
In the music, and I think the vocals also, because at the time vocals were really big for me, and I just didn't really feel like the singers wanted to be singing the songs. They didn't seem passionate about the stories. As a guitar player, how much are you affected by how the other members in the band are performing at any given show? Like if they're not 100% every night, do you automatically go into a mode of pushing harder to try and carry the show, or do you find that you're kind of being dragged down by that?
Oh gosh. Currently, the bands that I play with, there's such a high level of musicianship that rarely do I have to struggle with someone not performing well.
That's good.
Every night, I have something that I mess up. I'm like, oh, I would have played that a little differently, but it's about the show.
Mm-hmm.
And, Fast Times, I've been playing with them a year now, pretty much every weekend, and we play a lot of the same songs over and over. So it's very rare that we don't have train wrecks, unless it's a new song that we haven't worked out. But
Right.
This band never had a rehearsal.
Really?
We basically work things out at the shows. You come, they say we're doing this song, I come prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So we've listened to the same version.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
One day they were like, hey, we're doing Come On Eileen. And so I get to the show ready to do Come On Eileen and find out that it's a different version. Oh God. Let me try and look and see. It's a ska version, which is wonderful.
Oh. But yeah, you would think that they would say it's not the standard version. Check this one out. This is the one we're playing.
We're doing Come On Eileen.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great when you can trust each other to know that you're going to come prepared and not have to worry that, I mean, that shows that you're playing with some professional people. Do you find that level of musicianship, does it drive you to work harder?
Absolutely. Yes.
I think that's healthy.
And then I play in the experts, and 3 of them are Berkeley professors.
Oh.
And the rest are, they've been playing years and years and years. So it's the same deal. Like, I need to put my butt off to keep up.
Yeah, I think that's great. There's some things that you do that you want to do that are just comfortable and fun, but really, I like to be pushed. And as a solo artist, it's really difficult because other than my own desire to do something different or do something challenging, I'm not in a band right now, so I don't have that responsibility to anyone unless I'm working a contract job.
Well, you seem to have a good work ethic, though. You're going to work the same for yourself as you would for other musicians. Do you feel that? I see that in you.
Well, thank you. I like to think so. I mean, I just love it so much that I really, I'm not one of those people that likes to watch TV or go to the movies. I take my walks, but that's because I need to get out of the chair.
Yeah.
I sit way too much.
I love taking a moment to watch TV, but I'm like you. I don't have time to sit and watch.
Yeah.
Well, actually the first year that I graduated Berkeley, I was in a complete flux because I finished and all I was thinking of is I have got to get my degree. Like, that's all I thought of.
Mm-hmm.
Knew I wanted guitar performance because guitar had been my passion. That was the most important thing. And then, bam, I'm done. Then it was like I had just taken a rocket from Cape Canaveral through the atmosphere, and now I'm floating in space. What do I do now?
Right. Well, the adrenaline's stopped pumping, right? Because you were pushing towards that goal, and then you reach the goal, and you're like, okay, I got there. And now there's no immediate sense of the next thing. So your adrenaline kind of goes, okay, I need to stop pumping for a minute because you don't need to push right now. But then you've got to find that next thing because you graduated. So now you have to do the things that you wanted to do that made you go to school in the first place.
Yeah. So the first few weeks, I cleaned my house really good, watched TV.
I think that was a well-deserved break. I mean, mentally you had to be exhausted as well as physically.
Oh, yeah.
I look at it like, you know, when I used to drive from Phoenix to Vegas, it used to be, before the Hoover Dam bypass, it was about 5 hours from where I was. And you mentally prepare for that 5 hours. And when I would get to about 4 hours, I would start getting a little antsy, like, God, I just want to hurry up and get there. And I think, how did I drive from Colorado Springs to Detroit, which is 26 hours, when I can't sit in a car for 4 hours? But you mentally prepare for wherever the goal is.
Yeah, you're there.
And then after that, or when you're close to hitting it, then you start to, you know, come down a little bit from it. But yeah, you have to figure out. So what was you graduated, you got your degree. What was your next move?
Well, thankfully I'd gotten asked to play in a couple musicals.
Oh, good.
And then I was playing in the band The Experts. So there was always a weekly rehearsal and songs to prepare for. But I'd never thought, like, what do I want to do? Where am I going to work? So, but luckily, a job opened up at Guitar Center teaching voice and guitar. Jumped right into that. It was basically the person who was teaching, they got a new job in Florida and moved. And so I took over all of their students.
Nice.
So pretty cool as I jumped into that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that wasn't ideal. And then a job came up at the place where I work now. It's the South Shore Conservatory.
Okay.
And so it's a beautiful, beautiful environment. I'm very lucky to have that job.
Are you teaching there also?
Yep, I teach there. I also, through their community involvement, I teach 2 ukulele classes at the Council on Aging. Mm-hmm. And then another one I'm going to be teaching at the South Shore Vocational Technical High School.
Nice.
So I've just, all these other things that I never imagined I'd be teaching ukulele to seniors.
Right. I would have never imagined you would be teaching ukulele.
It's amazing. And the funny thing is, I never had played ukulele until 2016. I played in a musical. They called for guitar, banjo, and ukulele. And when they asked me, can you play ukulele? I said, oh, yeah. Totally.
Right.
It's like time to learn ukulele. Whoa.
Yeah. I was just telling the story on last week's episode about how I auditioned for my first film composing job, and they needed some techno music. And I didn't know anything about techno music, but just instinctively I told the director, yeah, give me an hour and I'll have something to you. And then I wonder, you know, looking back on that was really either really gutsy or really stupid. But either way, I got the job.
It worked.
But yeah, do you find it hard to transition? Because that's such a different style of playing.
It is. But luckily for the musical, it was just one song. Mm-hmm. And I went up to the very first sitz probe and I played it. It was this musical called Nice Work If You Can Get It. Mm-hmm. The ukulele piece was a duet with tuba.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was playing ukulele, and the guy singing the tune was pretending to play the ukulele.
Ah.
The director told me, no, you're playing too good. You're playing too cool. You really need to play like this guy's been drinking. He's kind of just picks up the ukulele and starts playing. So that was so fun.
That would be an interesting challenge. How did you like playing for a director versus just going out and doing a show with a band?
Oh my gosh. Every time I get a musical, I get the book in advance. I'm so stressed out, like just freaking out inside until I do that first rehearsal. Because you never know what it's going to be like. You can play along with the recording, but what is that director? You don't know the tempos. You don't know the other instrumentalists, and so then you show up and you're like, okay, I'm prepared enough. It's different each one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and everyone is different because it's a different director, it's a different style, it's different timings, and I think that the idea of theater is really exciting because it presents a constantly different challenge.
Yep, it really is, and it really improves your reading.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you do those every chance that you get if the schedule allows?
Well, I've gotten a lot of offers to do musicals, and unfortunately, I've had to turn them down. Or I've offered to sub out a couple weekends, but normally they want someone to do the whole run.
Sure.
Because I'm working every weekend with the band, it's really been hard to accept those.
Now, do you guys, other than just the surrounding states, do you guys have any plans to tour around the country or anything at this point?
I don't think so. I feel like we're busy enough around here.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you got a good thing going, right?
Yeah, it's been so great. These guys have been playing for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people came to our show last night who have been coming every time for 10 years.
That is a dedicated fan.
Yeah, it's such a fun experience, this Fast Times.
But it also shows something about the band performing, because if they weren't performing to a level that was enjoyable, obviously you wouldn't get people coming back even once or twice, let alone over the course of a decade.
Yeah.
That's really cool. What kind of music is it?
It's all 80s. We do everything from hair metal to super pop, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, lots of Bon Jovi and Journey,
Mm-hmm.
Blister and Sun.
What do you think it is about that era of music that has sustained so much? I mean, you have your classic rock era. Disco really hadn't sustained the way that the 80s did, and even the 90s haven't really sustained that way. What do you think the magic is about 80s music?
Well, there's something about it. It just creates a party atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I go out, it's the biggest party.
That's awesome.
And these young 22-year-old people, they know every single word.
You know, it wasn't a time where, I mean, there were things that were political in music, but they were really the rarity. It was mostly about love and just, here's what I'm feeling in the moment, and this is a good time. And it wasn't pretentious. It wasn't trying to do anything. It wasn't political. It was just fun music.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a fun time. It's pure entertainment.
Mm-hmm. There was a concert out here, I think it was back in September, that was the Lost 80s Live, and it was 18 bands from the 80s were here. And it was Berlin, it was A Flock of Seagulls, it was Missing Persons, just a phenomenal show. And to get to see these bands perform, which I never thought I would, was pretty amazing. But it was also the crowd reaction, because every song, of course they were mostly only doing their hits, like Bow Wow Wow came out and only did I Want Candy and then left. But there was definitely something about it that just felt so warm and comfortable and inviting. I really think it's an untouchable era.
Yeah, it really can be. I really think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. A couple weeks ago, I had Travis Leroy on from that 80s band in Denver. Did you know Travis?
I'm not very well. I just knew of him because the band was so popular.
Right, yeah. And I mean, they're kind of experiencing the same thing, just crowds loving that style of music. And I love that because that's also my era. Since I was born in the early 70s, the 80s is when I was really growing up in music, just like you. And I just love that music still touches people to this day. I guess it adds a little bit of validity to my youth.
Yeah, it really does, doesn't it?
Is it challenging as a guitarist since so much of it was keyboard dominated?
No, because you'd be surprised how many have these wonderful guitar parts. And then, I'm challenged. I just learned Wait by White Lion, which I've always wanted to learn. And then Bark at the Moon, Ozzy Osbourne, we played for Halloween.
Nice.
Just wonderful things. There's some where, okay, there's not much happening. Like All Night Long, Lionel Richie.
Mm-hmm.
It has some really fun rhythmic things, but I try to make my part interesting.
Yeah.
I'll take what's there and try to embellish a little bit, but we try to stay just like the recording.
Mm-hmm. But there's those parts where you sometimes have to add a little personal touch to it, even if it's subtle.
Yeah, I try to be myself.
Does it get repetitive at all since obviously you're switching out songs here and there, but doing the same songs, being that dedicated to the original, does it get a little stale at any point?
Well, I have to say, as a musician, one of my gifts is just to be able to play something a million times.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare that I would say I'm sick of something. Like there's pieces that I've been working on for years. I comfortably numb. I play that all the time, and each time I just think I want to put life into it.
Right. Yeah, I like that because that's always just been a sort of mellow, just you put it on and kind of drift away with it song.
It's one of the most wonderful guitar solos.
Mm-hmm. Well, was Pink Floyd one of your big influences in your early career?
I wouldn't say so. I spent time listening to it and, The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon, but I was working as a manicurist, and they had the Sirius Radio,
mm-hmm.
radio, I think, and there's a station called Acoustic Cafe.
Oh.
This was in 2011,
mm-hmm.
or maybe 2012. And a version of Comfortably Numb came on with a girl singing, and it was the beautiful, beautiful arrangement, and her voice was so nice. And then it just ended after the last chorus, and I thought to myself, how could one do a recording of that without having the guitar solo?
Yeah, that's one of the most historic pieces of the song.
Right, it's the most epic guitar solo on every top 100 guitar solos of all time. It's up there.
Right.
I want to record a version of that.
Yeah.
And I just, it's probably the most in-depth, detailed recordings I've ever done. My music is a little simple, but that had 40 tracks, and that was pretty huge for me.
Wow.
I recorded it, and I really wanted to stay true to David Gilmour's solo.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned his note for note, and I got it as best as I could, and it took me 2 weeks. Every night I would play it for just 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours, over and over and over, and I kept trying to get a good take, and then that second week, my neighbor was like, "Are you okay?" In the middle of the night, all I hear is the same music over and over again.
Do you think that you were overthinking it, or do you really feel like it really took you that long to get it the way you wanted it?
It took me that long.
Wow.
I don't consider overthinking. I was fighting with it. It was a battle. Myself and the Comfortably Numb solo. Then I finally got the take, and I was like, so what I wanted to do was do David Gilmour's solo and then my own solo right after it.
Okay.
Got his first, and like I said, it took 2 weeks. And then in 3 takes, I got the rest of it.
Oh, sweet.
So I think because I have it in my soul now. But it would never feel stale.
Mm. Yeah.
Never feel played it too many times.
Now, is this something that's out there that people can hear?
Yep, it's on my album called I Believe. Sorry, I forgot the name.
Great. I'll definitely have to check that out. I haven't heard that one yet. So you probably don't really have a lot of time for songwriting right now.
I really want to make time, but I'm really involved with making my videos right now. I feel like it's taking up probably more than I'd like because I had technical difficulties, and then I was using iMovie, and iMovie's not practical for making nice professional videos. So then I upgraded to the Adobe suite. I had to learn all the software. Challenge, but I'm finally to a point I kind of have that down. I do a series called The Chord of the Week, and on my channel I do 1 chord of the week for each week, so 4 weeks in a month. Then I try to do a transcription of a guitar solo that I love, and a tutorial for that, and then I do we call it a Spotlight Jam session.
Fun.
So that I write a track, and I just grab John, and we just play it, without much practice. So the idea is for guitar players to be able to download the track, watch the tutorial, and make their own and share it.
I like that. And this is not on YouTube. This is on TrueFire, correct?
This is on truefire.com. I have my own channel there, and I have a lot of free videos up there, but I have exclusive content. And if you become a subscriber, it's $5 a month. And with that, you get access to all my videos. And the Spotlight Jam Session month comes with a MP3 download backing track, a transcription of the chart, and then a tutorial video.
That sounds like a lot of value for $5 a month.
I think so too.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff is fun because for people that don't otherwise have opportunities to challenge themselves or don't really know what they want to do to challenge themselves, these kind of things are great. I used to download videos that would be for scoring competitions, and I wouldn't necessarily enter the competition because I didn't care about that as much, but I would score the video just for the practice of it, especially if it was like a genre I didn't normally work in. But you have to find those opportunities, and I love that you're providing that for guitarists that could use something different to do, because it can really open you up when you start seeing music through a different set of eyes.
Right.
When I started playing bass guitar a couple years ago, and it's not something that I have found or created the time to really dedicate myself to learning well, but I started seeing music differently because I was looking through the bassist's eyes instead of the drummer's eyes or the keyboard player's eyes. Did you, when you had to pick up like banjo or ukulele, did you kind of look at anything a little bit differently after that?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think it really just opens you up to seeing music. Like I'm a musician, and guitar is my instrument. And I used to believe that I was just a guitar player. That was it. That was the be-all, end-all. But I've realized that what's more important is having music, creating, playing, and then I chose guitar. But when you go over to ukulele, it's just a different voice.
Right.
Which you understand as a composer, you've made symphonies and musical scores for video games and movies. So each instrument has its own voice, which is incredible.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a challenge too, because when you look at your instrument and you work with other musicians, you have a basic understanding of what they do and how they do it, and you know how to work with them. But when you actually sit in their chair and you're doing what they do, you see things completely differently because you're now seeing different techniques or different approaches that maybe harmonize or counterbalance what you do as a guitarist.
That's right. And you really get a deeper understanding of the song.
Absolutely. I love that. I have to say, because we knew each other back in the late 80s, early 90s, when the metal scene and the progressive scene in Colorado Springs was really big. Mm-hmm. And not on a national level, but for Colorado, it was a pretty huge thing. And you were always held in the highest of regard.
Are you?
People would say you don't even know how good that girl is until you see her play. And
really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've seen you play, and I knew how good you were back then. And I love that you've turned this into something instead of most people, not just in Colorado Springs, but I mean in every city, where it was fun when I was a kid. I loved doing it, but now I got to go work because I have a kid, or I have to, I have to be an adult and pay the bills and all those things that we're programmed with, like we were talking about earlier. I love that you're still playing. I love that you know that there's always more to learn.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think people tend to get stuck, and like, I know how to play this genre. This is what I do. So they don't really necessarily work at expanding or learning because they just want to be comfortable where they're at. I can't see you ever getting to that point.
I don't think I ever will. And if I do, I'll be so sad.
Yeah. Well, call me and we'll figure out something. But do you think, we talked about this a little bit before the show, do you think that there were additional challenges for you because you're a female guitar player versus a guitar player?
Well, definitely. I'm not sure if there are challenges being a girl, but I am a nice girl and very soft-spoken. And for many, many years, I was the kind of person that wouldn't stand up for what I wanted. So I've in many situations, I'd be in a band and I'd want to do more, and they would say, "Oh, Julie, no, it's not your time,"
Mm-hmm.
And I just wouldn't fight that. I just would let that go. But now I'm to the point where I know my value, I know my worth, I know what I want to do, and I know what I'm capable of. And I've been able to stand up for myself in some situations.
Good.
And it's been a benefit. It's not, if you're in a position where you're playing and you want more, well, just ask for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was there a moment that kind of flipped that switch for you where you just started standing up for yourself, or was it just an organic kind of thing?
Well, I'm trying to think. I think it was a gradual over time. Mm-hmm. It's been an internal process. It's not that people were holding me back. I think that, musicians are you have to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
You advocate for yourself and you're okay with that. There's someone that's going to be left out if they're standing up for themselves. And that person was usually me.
Right.
So over time, I've just thought, no, I want this. I'm going to fight for this. And this is the position I want to be in. And this is the song I want to do or whatever. And I've been free to ask for that. Mm-hmm. You don't get it every time, but I definitely get it more than I used to.
Well, you don't get it if you don't put it out there.
Right.
and that's the thing I think a lot of people don't understand about this business is things don't happen if you don't put it out there. Nobody's going to buy your album if it doesn't exist. Nobody's going to come and see your show if you're not out there performing. Yeah. You have to put yourself in alignment with those kind of things. Otherwise, you're never going to be finding any kind of success in this business. And you do have to find your own voice because you might get to the point where you have an agent advocating for you, but you need to get to the point where an agent will be willing to advocate for you.
Yes. And if they see your desire and you're willing to work, then they will be there.
Mm-hmm. And you've worked with agents before, haven't you?
Yeah, I have actually.
Was that something that you found challenging to let go and trust in them to look after you?
Well, it was in one band in particular. I was hired as the guitar player, and so I didn't really work with the agents. Mm-hmm. But the leader of the band would say, "Okay, the agent wants this. The agent's working for this. Oh, we got this gig." Mm-hmm. It was definitely a mutual benefit. I figure the agent wants to make money, and we can do that for them, and we'll make money too. So absolutely,
yeah. That's cool. Well, before we wrap up, I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to tell this story, and I haven't heard it yet, so I'm excited to hear it myself. There was a picture that you posted on Facebook of you and Joe Satriani, and I've always been a fan of Joe. I think he's a brilliant writer. I think he's a fantastic player. He filled in for Ritchie Blackmore when Ritchie Blackmore quit Deep Purple in the middle of a tour. And it almost turned out that he was going to be the guitar player of the band for a while, but he couldn't do it with the stuff he already had lined up, and they got Steve Morse. But what can you tell us about that day?
Okay, well, it was a process. So I was in Guitar Center, and they had a big cutout of Joe, and it had information about a contest they were putting on. It was called Who's Next? And it said, "Win this guitar from Joe Satriani." So I thought, oh, I just love him. His music has been there for me through every facet, every storm, every up, every down of my life. And I just remember listening to Surfing with the Alien on my Walkman on the bus going to high school.
Oh, yeah.
You can imagine that. So I love his music. I played in my instrumental trio. We got to open up for him in 1996 for New Year's Eve, 2 shows.
Wow.
This contest came up. I was like, I feel like I got to enter it. So the details were there was 10 backing tracks up on this website. You pick your favorite, you download it, and you record a video of you playing the tune.
Uh-huh.
And out of all the winners, he was going to pick 10. And each winner got the Ibanez JS20S guitar, which has the Surfing with the Alien cover.
Perfect.
Silver Surfer's on that guitar. And they were going to fly all the winners to LA to enjoy a masterclass with Joe Satriani. So I thought, well, what's the harm? So I do my video. I chose Always With Me, Always With You. I put it up there, and out of 2,000 entries, he picked 10, and I was one of the 10.
That's awesome.
So I was just waiting, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? I got a call at work, and it was from Guitar Center. It said Guitar Center, Burbank, California, whatever. So I answer it, and the guy says, okay, is this Juli Morgan? Well, I'm not telling you you're the winner, but you're one of the few who might be chosen as the winner. So I just wanted to see if you're available on these dates. We'll let you know further, but you're not the winner. But we're just, you've been narrowed down in the top 20 or whatever. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, it could go either way, right?
Right.
Like the 11th.
But at this point, you can assume that Joe has probably heard you play.
Joe heard me play.
Right.
Yeah, at that point. And so then it was just a few days after that, the same number popped up, and they said I had won. It was incredible. I mean, I was running around in circles at work. I told you I was a manicurist back then.
Right, yeah.
I just got to this girl. Oh, I won, So I got to go to the airport. They flew me down to LA. I got to stay in this swanky boutique hotel. My meals were covered. They drove us to the beautiful Guitar Center that has that room with all the cool one-of-a-kind guitars, like $25,000 Strats and all the cool and all that. And he did a masterclass just for us. And he told us one thing he liked about each of our videos, and he told me that what he liked about mine was I was the only person who danced through the song.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that something that you did intentionally, or is it that's just how you felt it when you played?
I feel it when I play it, I guess. I just move that way into him, like I was dancing. So.
Yeah, I like that. I remember seeing some stuff from Tori Amos where she was very physical playing piano, and that's not an instrument that you're usually very physical with unless you're playing like Jerry Lee Lewis. But it's that feeling the music, like when you're really in that zone and it just encapsulates you. If you're going to move, you're going to move.
You're going to move. It just comes out.
What was the? Did you take a lot away from the class, or were you just so like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here, that you really weren't able to absorb it?
Well, I absorbed it all.
Good.
Came out and he goes, you guys, you won this contest. It's obvious you can play. So it was more just this intimate conversation. We could ask him questions, but he told us his approach to writing, performing live, warming up, jamming, playing with other musicians. All these wonderful little tidbits that were so important to hear.
And it just happened to be, of all the people that could have had a contest, somebody that was such a heavy part of your life. I love that of all people that it could have been.
Yep, somebody said to me.
Now, you mentioned warm-up. Now, you play a lot, so do you do anything to warm up to kind of get your fingers to be able to I can't speak anymore, but to sustain the long term? Or do you just kind of just go on stage and go for it?
I like to stretch a little bit. I find as I'm getting older, that helps. But thankfully, I've never had any injuries. I like to start with playing easy chords, some scales, things like that. I do warm-ups with my voice on the way down to gigs too, since I have a lot of time.
Are you singing lead or are you singing backup?
I sing lead.
Okay.
There's 5 singers in my band. We all sing, but I'd say the majority of the songs get split up between me and the drummer and the other vocalist guitar player.
That's pretty cool. I like, it's another challenge to be able to sing and play at the same time, especially if you're doing anything even remotely technical. I mean, if you're strumming chords or if you're playing a basic beat, because I used to sing when I was in a country band, and that's a whole nother level of performance right there.
Yeah, it really is. But I do find that as if I'm learning them parts together, somehow they lock in. Makes it a little easier.
Yeah, well, I mean, they all follow the same beat. So
Yeah.
unless you're doing something that's specifically, I guess I would say more jazzy, where it's more meant to counterbalance things, it really kind of follows the same flow and the same click. So it at least gives you that alignment to be able to do it. Then it's just a matter of coordinating your hands and your mouth at the same time.
Right.
Do you have any plans to, now I know that you said you wanted to get back into songwriting. Are you hoping to be able to release another album at some point?
Yes, absolutely. I have a few tunes for it already. I do get a little creativity in every month when I do that jam track. Mm-hmm. But definitely I want to write.
Well, I'm very interested to see, because definitely your stuff that I've heard has been a progression of where you've come from since I met you in the 90s or late 80s. And then, as you transition through playing in Seattle and then going out to the East, I mean, I've definitely watched your songwriting improve, your performance improve. It's been a great joy to see someone who's so passionate and obviously has the talent actually using it and making a living and getting through your life doing what you love doing. I don't think there's anything better than that.
No, there isn't. I feel so fortunate.
I'm so glad that we got to talk, and thank you so much for coming on the show. I can't wait to see what you do next, and of course, we'll have the link to your TrueFire page on there so people can check it out. The subscription, the monthly subscription, sounds like it's definitely worth it, so I would highly recommend that to you guitarists that are listening, or even fans of music, because you can learn a lot listening to those kind of things. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Julie.
Thanks for inviting me.
You bet. Take care. We'll talk soon. How can you not just be completely inspired by that? I mean, that is some seriously hard work, some serious dedication, and look where it's got her. But you have to find that belief in yourself. If you don't believe you can do it, it's going to be hard to get yourself motivated to do it. So believe in yourself first. That's the key to everything. So thank you guys for once again joining me on another episode of the HaskinCast podcast. Please leave some comments. Please leave a like or a review of the show on iTunes. Also, if you have any questions, have anything to say, email me at scott@scotthaskin.com. We'll be back next week with another guest, and then I'll be headed to NAMM 2019. Have a great week, everybody.